There's just gonna be some glare, but that's okay. Hope you guys are doing well. I haven't made a video in about a month. Just want to say thank you guys for the support on that video. People seem to really enjoy that video. My perspective on Christian nationalism. It'll be kind of a similar video that I'm going to be talking about today, but I want to talk about is extremism, at least political extremism, and how it has divided the United States, especially, and of course you can add it for other countries, but since I live in the United States, it's just what's prevalent, and we constantly see it on the media, and it used to not be that way. Obviously, in my time, that's all that there's been. There's only been political divides. There's only been sanctions between the Democrats and the Republicans, between Obama and George Bush or John McCain, and even then, those people had significantly respected each other. At least they showed some type of diplomacy towards each other. But it seems like in the last decade, at least within Trumpian politics, with Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, and Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, the fact that for the last 3 elections we have had Donald Trump be in all of them, and that also we've had 2 of the oldest presidents of the United States history run in office back to back and were president back to back. So mainly what I want to talk about is that political extremism isn't surprising. It's not anything new within the United States or within other countries and things like that, right? You had the moral majority of the 70s and the 80s with the AIDS epidemic and this evangelical Christianity that gets implemented into extremism, fundamentalist groups, while also criticizing Islam extremists in the Middle East and sects of Britain and things like that, and then saying that immigrants are destroying that country, but we need to allow for Christian migrants and things like that in order to come into our country to help untaint our society, things like that, right? Very fascist, Nazistic propaganda is truly what it is. But with that being said, my point being is that extremism is becoming the norm. It is the norm, actually, within the Democratic Party and within the Republican Party, mainly within the Republican Party, or at least it's what's happening right now. The MAGA party is the Republican Party. The MAGA representing this sort of like fascist cultist mindset where everything that Trump says is scripture and everything that his cabinet is true, when we have multiple evidence like on the contrary. Like, we know that Donald Trump is a pedophile. We know that he was working with Jeffrey Epstein, or was a close associate of Jeffrey Epstein. We know all of these horrific things that are occurring right before our eyes within these cabinet members. We have some of the most unqualified people in political office right now, and Democrats are not doing anything. Our Supreme Court is barely holding these people against, holding us before, ending up as a full totalitarian society. And the United States has always had authoritarian people. It's always had corrupt congressmen and politicians and things like that. And the executive branch has continuously been exercising more and more power by being the chief executive, by being the chief of staff, by having the Secretary of State, by having the Secretary of Defense, by having all of these different departments within the executive branch constantly exercising more and more power, while also not legally having the jurisdiction to do any of this, having to go through Congress. I mean, the two bicameral offices are the only supreme law of the land. They're the only people that are allowed to make judiciary and legislative positions. They are the ones that make the laws and enforce the laws, and yet it's not happening. And continuously, we didn't go through Congress within this war of Iran. We double-striked Venezuelan U-boats who we didn't even know if they actually were smuggling in drugs. We nationalized the guard, the national security guards in Washington, D.C., and then said that we were going to use the Alien and Seditions Act. It's to authorize his own authority. Trump loves acting like an authoritarian. The people in his cabinet love acting like authoritarians. Marco Rubio wants Cuba. Pete Hegseth wants the acceleration of the end times and wants to create the end times, right? He wants to make sure that Christ will come back even quicker, right? He thinks that he's doing the will of God by purposefully accelerating the rate at which Christ can return. It's sick. It's disgusting. And these pedophiles aren't being held accountable. These authoritarians aren't being held accountable. None of these people are receiving any sort of justice. And the American people were just sitting here completely dumbfounded and ostracized from affordability, which apparently Trump says now is a hoax. It's a Democratic hoax. Or that the Jeffrey Epstein files are a mirage and a conspiracy, and the only real perpetrators are purely Democrats who are all pedophiles. It's ridiculous. It's insane. And it's the fact that nothing seems to be done. Of course, people are doing things, but it seems like we just keep, like, their plan is just to keep desensitizing us through media outsources, or through media sources, and then we won't do anything about it because it's just too much saturation of information, and it just paralyzes you. You're informed, yes, but you're not able to do anything about it because none of us are in office, none of us are in the Senate, none of us are in the House of Representatives. We're not able to make these laws. We can vote for people, sure, but like, what candidate you're going to vote who you genuinely think is actually going to be able to get these people out of office? Not many of them. And the people that don't want to go into office are the people that should be going into office because they understand it, because they actually want to do it. But the problem is that they don't have the funding. They don't have the backing. And then, of course, these people use our tax dollars to go fund Israel, to go fund genocides in Gaza, to go slaughter little girls' hospitals and little girls' churches and schools in Iran, while they go bomb all of the oil fields because they're the third greatest reserve in Iran, or in the world, and we rely heavily on them. Russia relies heavily on them. It continuously is getting worse and worse and worse, and all of the things that Trump supposedly was promoting, I didn't believe any of them because I knew he was lying, but all the things that people had voted for him, they're not going to come true. And of course they're not going to come true. They didn't come true in his first term. They didn't come true when he led a fucking insurrection in 2020 or in 2021. It didn't happen any of those times. His authoritarian fascist ideologies have been keeping up with him for a decade. And now he has full-blown dementia and full-blown narcissism that he can't even control anymore. That he used to be able to at least center himself slightly, and even then that's giving him too much fucking credit. It's genuinely infuriating how much these people are getting away with. And of course you can talk about other politicians, they get away with just as much, and they get away like, oh, but what about What about Joe Biden pardoning his son? What about Obama with the strikes? Yes, they should all be held accountable. All of these people are fucking war criminals. But here's the problem. No one in Congress does anything. And when they do something, when they slightly hold these people accountable, they just come back like parasites and cockroaches constantly. They just multiply and regenerate. And they're in the pockets of multi-billion, trillion-dollar companies that are stripping away healthcare, that are stripping away affordability, that are stripping away everything, housing, basic, like food stamps, everything. Their motto is, you will own nothing and you will be happy. No, we won't be happy. We already don't own anything. This current generation is the only generation that will end up living a life worse than their parents. That is ridiculous. We're in a debt crisis. We're in a national crisis. We're destroying other countries. And we've been destroying other countries for decades. Actually, really, since our inception. We are colonialists. We're imperialists. And as soon as we backed down after the Soviet Union, after the Cold War, well, we didn't know what else to do. So let's just go back to imperialism. Let's just go back to colonialism because we funded too much of China. Because other countries funded too much of China. And now they're becoming a global superpower and have surpassed us since 2016. And now we're like, oh shit, we actually have to do something. Oh man, we actually need to start fighting against China. So we're just going to try to take everything that we possibly can by funding Israel, by siding with them, while pretending we care about Ukraine, while actually then siding Russia and supporting Russia, because so many conservatives and so many neocon fascists genuinely believe in the supremacy of Russia, which is insane because then you hate communist China or you hate North Korea, but yet then these other authoritarians get a pass. And it's not like it's been any different in any other period of society. It's just that it's more overt this time, and yet we're so desensitized because all of it's just memes, and it's just a flooding of information, and it's just like, yeah, well, we already knew that. That's just old news. And even then you can just be like, oh, well, it's AI and it just doesn't matter, or what can I do, and who cares? Care what's happening. Care about what's happening within your own country. Care about how we are destroying other countries and have been destroying other countries for years. And now, instead of them just going after other countries, which we were complacent with, they're going after our own people, which we are still complacent with. Because they fill our brains with mindless, doom-scrolling entertainment, and you can't do anything about it. At least you feel like you can't do anything about it. You just watch all the sources of media and believe that you're actually changing something when you're not. You're just receiving the information and then feel like you're acting on it. So we need to do something. We need to actually have groups. We need to have clubs. We need to create institutions that will actually help us. We need to create more humanitarian options. We need to reach out with other different countries in order to help us. Because our own administration will not help us. The people in Congress will not help us. Maybe in these midterm elections, they will finally be able to persecute and prosecute all of these people in the different executive branches and the legislative and judiciary. But I highly doubt it, because most of these people are in the fucking files, and they're not going to be stopped. We need to actually take actions into our own hands. And I don't know what that exactly is, but I'm sure there are ways. There are revolutionary actions that we can take. There are unions, there are labor institutions, there are things that we can do. Speak to your representatives, try to find people who are actually genuine, caring people that want this to be stopped. Fight for what is right, fight for democracy, for republicanism. Be bipartisan, don't be partisan, don't be completely biased and ideologically based on one political party. Thank you.